Welcome to Fear with Christine Spratley. Living like a head in charge, the podcast where Christine says fear, questions everything, and takes bold action. Christine Spratley is a former professional boxer, nanny, and 29-plus year corporate warrior turned founder of HBIC Advisors, where she is a public speaker and coach. She's been saying fear her whole life, many times without even realizing it. So tune in, spread the word, and get ready, because this isn't about aging with grace. It's about aging with mischief, audacity, and having a damn good story to tell.
Tubs, everyone. Welcome to Fuck Fear with Christine Spratley. Living like a head bitch in charge. Joe, it feels like I haven't been in the studio for a long time.
It's been like a week or so.
I know.
It feels like a long time.
I know, it has. This section, ladies and gentlemen, this segment, not this section, but this is going to be just kind of a little update. And it's kind of like, who the fuck knew? The gifts that you could get at 54. I recently, and one of the reasons why I was out was I did a speaking thing, a promotional thing in Denver last week, and then flew to meet my brother for the first time. And for those of you that are new or don't know or whatever, I was adopted. And so last year in 2023, I got some things started happening with me from an illness perspective. And the doctors were like, listen, we can't figure this out. You need to get more medical records, because I had none. And so I started reaching out to get that, and found out in 2024 that they reached out to me, and Julie, the caseworker, called, and she said, listen, we've got your file, but we need consent to give it to you. And I said, well, okay, reach out. And they said, well, your mother has passed. My birth mother had passed. And she said, so we have to reach out to the closest living relative. And I was like, okay. And she says, that's her son, your brother. So last year, about May, it's been about a year, I found out I had a brother. And not only did I have a brother, but he's a little brother. And for somebody who was adopted into the family of 15 as the 16th child being the youngest, that was pretty cool. I mean, that's pretty awesome. Like, I've never been a big sister. Like, I'm always I could be the oldest person in the room and I still think I'm a little kid. I'm going to go sit at the little kids table. And so July of last year, this was actually kind of fun. My stepson was living with us at the time for the summer. I paid him to come and work for my company, and that was really just to come and live with us. And I met my brother's name is Scott for the first time via Zoom. And it was really funny. I felt like I was at the zoo, looking at the gorillas and the monkeys and like, you can't touch them, but you're like, what's that? And so anyway, we've gotten to know each other a lot, especially, because I've gone through some things. I've separated from my husband and moved out and done all these different things. And so he's kind of been in this space for me. And I've been learning about him and his life, but also growing up and what mom was like and just all of that. So I flew from Denver into South Dakota, because they live in Spirit Lake and Iowa, and South Dakota's closest airport you can fly into. So he picked me up Friday morning, the Friday before Mother's Day, and him and his son, Caleb, picked me up in their big old Dodge pickup truck and drove to outside of Minneapolis for Caleb's hockey tournament. And we were going to spend all weekend there, because we were trying to coordinate and it just wasn't working. So I was just like, I'll come there. I'll be there, and we'll meet you at your level, at whatever needs to happen, we'll just do it. And that's good enough, instead of us waiting till we all had time. He's got a shitload of kids. And so I was like, you ain't gonna have time. So I was nervous. I didn't know how I felt. But I was really excited. I just had a lot of energy. And so what was really cool was So they pull up and he gets out and just huge hug. And, my back's all messed up. And I was like, ouch. But it was so good. And we hugged for a long time. And again, it was this weird curiosity of being familiar, but you're not familiar. And so we began this journey and just finding out about him and, just the kind of the music that he listens to. Now, he's 9 years younger than me. I was born in 70 and he was born in 79. So there's some overlap with music, but I was like about, not even, because it's a 4-hour drive. They're not even like, I don't know, an hour in. I'm like, dude, we got it. Can I listen to my playlist? It was just, again, it's his truck, so he can listen. But what was funny was getting to know his son. And Caleb's 14. And so we're driving and Scott and I are talking and we're kind of talking light, just kind of light. And I'm like looking, and of course I haven't been back. The other part of this is I haven't been back to the Midwest kind of driving through. I've flown in for work at different times to Des Moines and different cities and stuff, but I hadn't been back through the country because I was a country girl. And it was like, oh my gosh, they're disking in the fields and the tractors. So we were talking about the tractors, and you only see certain types of stores up there, not types, but brands of stores, like here you see Harris Teeter. Up there you see different stores and
Rainbow Foods.
Yeah. And so it was just kind of like, wow, I haven't been back in that since probably 91 or 92. And so that was a lot of intake of emotions and shit. But so we're driving and we're kind of still in the not in intense conversations or anything, but still trying to feel it out. And all of a sudden I hear, and I'm just going to say this right up front. Sorry, people. I'm going to sing a little bit. And I'm really not a singer at all. But out of the back seat, and Caleb's back there doing whatever a 14-year-old kid bored out of his mind is doing. He's got the headsets on. I could hear him playing games for a while. But then all of a sudden I hear, come on, Camille, the Boy George song. And I turn around, I'm like, what are you singing? And you're like, how do you know this? And he's like, and that opened up a floodgate between him and I. Like we exchanged playlists. I was like, oh no, you got to listen to this. We sang everything from that to Danger Zone to Journey to 50 Cent to Post Malone. We were singing everything. And it was so much fun. And it was actually funny because Scott wasn't annoyed, but he was not as enjoying it as much as Caleb and I were. I've never had somebody that was flesh and blood. And I know that may sound silly to some of you, but I've just never had that. I've never had that sort of connection. I've just never, and I could sit there and go, y'all are like, that is my flesh and blood. Like that is my flesh and blood. And that was pretty powerful. That was really powerful. And it was, so we go up and I, of course, if anybody knows me from either my days before I got into corporate and stuff, but I was a boxer. I'm very competitive. And I'm much more vocal now than I've been probably when my stepkids were in, Brady mainly was in competitions and playing lacrosse. But Caleb's a goalie. And I turned into like the hockey mom, goalie hawk mom, where I was like, when he was down first period, I was down there. And then the second period, I was down in the other goal, I would yell out, yo diggity, because we sang that song too. and he would be like, he'd hear me. And the great thing about Caleb was he likes to dance. Like he's a free spirit. He's just, I really felt a kinship to him. He's such a free spirit. And everybody on the team knows that he dances. Like he's out there, and that's when he's in his mojo, right, Joe? And so there was, to say that there were a lot of shots on goals was an understatement. A father from the opposite team or the opposing team actually made a TikTok video of Caleb, and it's out there. And I'll have to find it to tell y'all what it is, but he's dancing, out there. And he says, this is the great attitude to have because it's been like 50 shots on goal, and it was insane. But again, Caleb and I just buddied up, and Caleb, I don't know, I think the first night Scott wanted to go eat something, meat and potatoes, and Caleb and I are like, no, we're going to get sushi, and Caleb wanted chicken lo mein, so we found a place of chicken lo mein, and we're having, and he ate like a 14-year-old. I mean, he just inhaled everything. And it was just fun. And then he went outside and did whatever, curious 14-year-olds do. And Scott and I sat and talked, and, and we had a lot of questions and just a lot of curiosity. There's nowhere to catch yesterday's bus, but it just it was really interesting. And then the next day so I got to tell you this. So Caleb kept saying, Dick's Sporting Goods, right? Caleb kept going, I want to go see Dick's. And, I want to go see Dick's. Dad, I like Dick's. We got to go see Dick's. And again, you're catching it, right, Joe? Like, you're catching that, right?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite stores to talk about. Yeah.
But when you say that, I want to go see Dick's. So Scott and I let it ride. We just let it ride. But it was so funny because it was finally the second day, Saturday, we're sitting at Raising Cane or something right before I got sick. And I look at Caleb and I go, I want to see Dick's. I got to go see Dick's. I like Dick's. And then it just dawned on him what that statement meant, in the broader. And again, this is a kid who listens to some filthy stuff, but has, but it was just so funny. And then he just got this big grin. He's like, I want to go to Dick's Sporting Goods. I want to go to Dick's. And it was just so funny.
Christine Spratley doesn't hide her life. She's real about it, warts and all. After leaving 29 plus years in corporate, she founded HBIC Advisors with one mission: be a fierce ally for women to stop waiting for permission to live boldly. If you want your audience to unapologetically run until apprehended toward fulfillment, Christine is your next podcast guest. Warning: may cause spontaneous HBIC badassery. Book her now at christinespratley.com.
And then I got to talk. I didn't get to talk to McKenna, the youngest daughter, but I got to talk to the older son, Jackson, and we talked via, phone, video, whatever that shit is, and it was just really, really awesome. But then Saturday got sick, came back, dropped Caleb off, and then we were kind of sitting there because Scott coaches, but he didn't have to go in yet. And we were talking, and then something just kind of weird. It's like we just quit talking for about it seemed like eternity. We just didn't, it was just we were both in some, it was just, we were in thought, and so I'm thinking I'm having a good time, and I was having a good time. And so Scott goes in, and then my friend Kama calls, and she's, being the Zen fairy that she is. And all of a sudden, I just rip her head off. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to hang up. And then she texts me a little bit, hey, that ain't cool. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? And I'll talk about this in my next segment, but I was like, there's some stuff going on here, kid. And I just kind of sat with that, and then I just started to kind of deal with, sit with, what all of, just we had talked about the records and the different things that were written in the records, and just, my I told him about where I was raised, and, we had talked about it before, but it was different in person. And like I said, I hadn't been back. So there was all of this stuff that was coming up. Then Saturday night, Caleb had a buddy that took him to go see the Twins and the Giants game. So Scott and I just went out and hung out and talked. And it was really incredible. It was really incredible. And then the next day, we went to a game because they played the early game on Sunday because they had lost. They had won one other game, I think. And so they were the first ones out kind of deal. Which it's funny, and anybody who has kids that have travel sports, whatever, when the team starts losing, they're out of it. Then you're like, yeah, don't win anymore, because then we can get the early game and then we can get the hell out of here. And it was really funny because those thoughts were coming back, and I'm like, don't do that, Christine. But we played the early game Sunday, and then we went, and Caleb and I were so funny. Again, we were just little shits. So we walk into this. Scott said, no, this is where we're going to go eat. We're going to go to this coffee shop. And I'm like, no, he just finished playing. He's going to scarf down like 3 plates of food, and I didn't want to go there. And so we walk into this coffee shop, and Caleb grabbed Caleb. By this time I'm like arm in arm with him, buddying up, and he goes, man, it stinks in here, because that real strong coffee smell, that real stark roast. And he says, I go, I don't want to eat here. You want to eat here? He's like, no. And I'm like, let's turn around and leave. I'm like, your dad gonna be mad? He's like, yeah, I think he's gonna be mad. And I was like, that's all right, let's go. And so we both just turn around. We walk out, and Scott's like, what? Where were you going? I said, is he pissed off? And I guess Caleb had turned around, and he's like, yeah, I think he's gonna give us the double bird. And I'm like, that's okay. And by this time, my back is just totally messed up. I can't run. I can't move hardly. And I go, and he's like, well, let's make a break for it. And I'm like, I can't run. He's like, that's okay, I'm gonna leave you. And I'm like, I'll trip your ass. And then, of course, we find this cafe that I had spotted. We go sit down, and Caleb, of course, eats like 5 pounds of food, And then the Uber came and took me to the airport, and I came home. And, gave him hugs and kisses and told him I loved him. But I'm just sharing that because I've gone through a lot in this last year, and whatever you're going through, even if it's confusion, even if it's whatever, don't quit 5 minutes before the miracle happens. One of my favorite sayings is, you're not 5 minutes too early and you're not 10 minutes too late. You're just right on time. I'm right on time for my life, for the miracles that are supposed to happen today. And I know I came back Monday, and I had all sorts of emotional stuff going on this week. Plus I had my back procedure on Monday, but I didn't know this was in my life. Like, this was even in my path, because I never really wanted to go and find my birth parents. It was a door that was like shut. And yet this person, literally this person sends me, we have the same sense of humor, just sarcastic, just the mugs and the stuff that he sends me is just like, it's so funny. And he even gets my rambling. Like, he knows how to decipher, because I don't text because I have fat fingers and I suck at it. So I do the verbal, voice text thing. And I'll lose, I'll be like, ugh, and off over here, come back over here. And it's a really wonderful gift. And we both have had no real siblings to share our path with. And yet at one of the hardest times in my life, he's not only family, but he's showing up. And he's choosing to show up, even when it's uncomfortable for him, because I know this has been hard for him. And he's got his, he's got a family and doing stuff and running a job. They've got a coffee shop. They're getting ready to open another coffee shop. And then he has a full, another, his old job, let alone travel with, kids and all that stuff. And it just was really like, I had no idea, and I've cried a lot, and I'm sure I'll cry more, but there are going to be days of just joy. of lightness of heart. And I'm going to sing, 50 Cent Disco Inferno with a 14-year-old kid and then make fun of him the next day going, yeah, I like dicks. I want to go see dicks. That's all I want to do, Caleb. I want to go see some dicks, So, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're at in your world today, just take a moment and just know that it's not done. Like, you don't know. I don't know where it's going to happen. I don't know when the pain's going to stop or the joy's going to begin, but you don't know. And as long as I keep getting up and keep participating in my day, I'm given a shot at more joy, and I'm not going to let anybody take my joy or steal my sunshine today. And everybody else can just fuck off, I do. I've got this imprinted in my head, this little, the three of us just laughing and, just laughing. And it's really nice to be given the gifts at 54. I'll be 55 this year. It's really nice to be given those unexpected gifts of life. So, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, Tubbs.
Thanks for tuning in to Fear with Christine Spratley. Living like a head in charge. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, tell her what topics you want to hear, and share this episode with someone who could use a pantry full of boldness in their life. Remember, life isn't about aging with grace. It's about aging with mischief, audacity, and having a damn good story to tell. So show up, take action, and keep saying fear.